Well, we are just a couple weeks into the MLB season, and already there is a controversy and a headline that has been dominating the MLB season thus far, and I really have no doubt that it won't continue for the rest of the season, and this is the Torpedo Bat controversy. So, part of our quote unquote jobs as a sports fan, myself included, is to have a good argument with other fellow sports fans. Whether it's LeBron versus MJ, which, let's be honest, that'll probably go to the end of time. Brady being the GOAT of quarterbacks and possibly the greatest player to ever play in the NFL. My personal opinion, he is not. And of course, how about the Dodgers 2020 World Series title? Is it a legit title or does that get an asterisk? You name it, we enjoy a good argument. But this MLB season, there's a new argument on the rise, and is the Torpedo Bat considered cheating? So I'm going to give you my personal thoughts on it, although the title of the video kind of gives it away. So I'm just going to cut to the chase, and I'll explain my view on this. In my personal opinion, the Torpedo Bat is not cheating in the MLB. As a matter of fact, I think it personally makes the game better. So, for those that don't know, this is what the Torpedo Bats are. They actually became popular late in 2024 when Giancarlo Stanton of the New York Yankees used it in the playoffs last year, and, he had a really good postseason last year. And it was really evident in the first week of the season a couple weeks ago when the New York Yankees played the Milwaukee Brewers, and they had that historic series against the Brewers where the Yankees absolutely went off on Milwaukee. The Yankees batted .333 in that series against Milwaukee. They had 35 RBIs and swatted 15 homers against Milwaukee. As a matter of fact, 9 of the 15 homers, that's 2/3 of the Yankees' homers in that series, they came from the Torpedo Bats. And as I mentioned, you had Giancarlo Stanton using them in the playoffs late last year, but it really started to become popular now as you take a look here at the average baseball bat compared to the size of the Torpedo Bat. And a lot of people saying that, well, the Yankees are cheating again. Oh, the Yankees came up with this. No, the fact is the Yankees did not come up with this. Who came up with this is that it was one of the professors and one of the geniuses that invented the bat, and it's personally used for a hitter to have his sweet spot in the bat have more wood, so that way they can make more contact and more power with the ball. Really, it's only a controversy because of where the wood is, and basically the team that used it, that's a home run heavy team like the New York Yankees. But here's why I say that the Torpedo Bat is not cheating. It's for two reasons. First of all, and most importantly in my opinion, other teams in the MLB over this season have used them. You see guys like Elly De La Cruz of the Reds using the Torpedo Bat. You had Adley Rutschman of the Orioles. He used the Torpedo Bat. Dansby Swanson from the Chicago Cubs. He's used it. A couple of Minnesota Twins players have used them. Frankie Lindor of the New York Mets, he used them. And a few LA Dodgers used them. But let's be honest, teams like the Dodgers and Yankees don't really need the Torpedo Bats, seeing all the power that they have in their bats alone. And a couple of Boston Red Sox players used them as well. So it's not just the Yankees using the Torpedo Bats. And just as a side note, could you imagine if a guy like Aaron Judge used a Torpedo Bat? I mean, good Lord. I mean, this is a guy who can easily swat 50-plus homers when he wants to, and a guy who should probably have at least 3 MVPs on his ledger. But could you imagine if he got a hold of a Torpedo Bat? I mean, wow, that's scary. That's like Barry Bonds on steroid stuff, right there, man. But, that's the thing. A lot of people say that, well, it's cheating. I don't think it's cheating because, like I said, you have other teams and other players using the Torpedo Bats right there. But you see, like, it's within, this leads me into my second point, because it's within the rules of what a regular baseball bat is supposed to be. So the textbook definition of a baseball bat in the MLB is that the bats need to be smooth, and they need to be a round stick that's made of solid wood, and they need to have a maximum diameter of 2.61 inches and a maximum length of 42 inches. So they never said where you can put the wood nor shape it a certain way, and that's what those professors did. So all they really did was just put the wood in the part of the bat to where, you know, you would want to make more contact with the ball. Every rule was followed. And, you know, like I said, it's not like they completely changed the shape of the bat. You know, they just made it so that more power can be applied to it. And, you know, like I said, I know a lot of people think this is cheating, but this is not cheating. If they completely changed the way the bat was shaped, then obviously, yeah, I would say it's cheating, okay? I would say this is more of rule manipulation right here, and I would say that it's just a stylized and a custom-made bat, but I don't think it's cheating, because, like, the definition of cheating is that you get an unfair advantage that allows you to unfairly beat your opponent, and this is not and then this bat right here, it is completely fair, and it follows every guideline where the MLB bats are supposed to be made. Because if the MLB thought this was an unfair advantage, then I feel like they would have deemed it illegal right away, but they have not deemed it illegal. And if it was deemed illegal, then I would absolutely say that a player that uses a torpedo bat would be cheating. So that's why I say no, it's not considered cheating. But then, you know, like I said, to me, it's simply just rule manipulation, and it's finding a loophole within the rules about what the baseball bat can be. You know, to me, this is kind of like the guardian cap of the NFL. You know, like how you have, like, certain players in the NFL wearing the guardian cap that has extra absorbent inside the helmet that, you know, makes it less likely for them to get a concussion, because the concussion protocol is such a big deal in the NFL. You know, that's kind of like what I feel like the torpedo bat is, because as a hitter, okay, imagine you're a baseball hitter. If you're going to have a custom-made bat like this, and if you're going to have a bat that wants you to have more power and you want to get more contact with base hits, wouldn't you want it to be in the place where it makes the most contact? And wouldn't you want it to be in the place to where you as a hitter are more likely to hit it? That's all this is. It's a custom-made bat. It's not breaking any kind of rules. And, you know, like I said, it's rule manipulation, and it's just finding a loophole, but it's not cheating, because, like, the thing is, like, whether rule manipulation is considered cheating, it really depends on the specific context of what the rule is and what the definition of cheating is. And, you know, like I said, my personal definition of cheating is that you're having an unfair advantage and you're breaking the rules. This is not breaking the rules. But when you're manipulating the rules, you are going into the context of what the rules are, and you're finding a way to make it work. You know what I mean? And you're trying to find a way to make that rule better. So, like, there are some cases to where there could be a legit strategy within the rules of a game or a sport or whatever, you name it. And it might, and while others, they would consider that cheating, the fact is, cheating in sports and cheating in games in general, like I said, cheating is outside of the rules. And as I just mentioned, the torpedo bats have been approved within the rules. Basically, long story short with this, it boils down to whether a baseball player is truly trying to break the rules, or if they're trying to just find a loophole within the rules that violates the game, and it gives them an obvious unfair advantage, and where they're trying to get the mechanics or just simply playing outside of the boundaries of what's allowed in the MLB. That's what I'm getting into this with the torpedo bats, because like I said, I mentioned Barry Bonds on steroids earlier in this video. Here's the thing. Steroids were illegal. Steroids were a banned substance. So Barry Bonds, yes, that was cheating right there. But the fact is, regardless of what you think about Barry Bonds, he's one of the most polarizing figures in the MLB, okay? Barry Bonds, you got to know, and I myself being a Pirates fan, and just as a side note, I wish my team would be smart enough to use these torpedo bats, because God knows that if there's one team in the MLB that should be using the torpedo bats, it's the Pittsburgh Pirates, because the offense is even worse than what it's been the last couple of seasons without Andy Haynes. But that's another topic for later. But anyway, like I was saying, Barry Bonds, you can call a cheater. Mark McGwire, you can call a cheater. Sammy Sosa, you can call a cheater. Ryan Braun, you can call a cheater. Let's see. Alex Rodriguez, you can call a cheater. David Ortiz, you can call a cheater. Rafi Palmeiro, you can call a cheater. Ivan Rodriguez, you can call a cheater. The list goes on and on and on about all these players that have used steroids and have gone outside the rules and the regulations and the mechanics that violated the game of baseball. Oh, but the home run race of 98 was so great. It made for an exciting chase. You know, they wanted to break the all-time home run record. Yeah, they did that with banned and foreign and illegal substances. These torpedo bats are not banned and they are not illegal. You see what I'm getting at here? There is a fine line between taking a PED and using a torpedo bat for extra power. So, with all this being said, as I said in the beginning of the video, I do not think that the torpedo bats is cheating. I will not call the torpedo bats cheating unless the MLB deems them to be illegal. And they are not illegal. So, no guys, as much as I would love to say that the New York Yankees were cheating against the Milwaukee Brewers, they were not. They were using a bat that was approved by the MLB. Ellie De La Cruz was not cheating. Adley Rutschman was not cheating. Dansby Swanson was not cheating. The Twins, Dodgers, and Red Sox were not cheating. Okay? However, the Houston Astros, when they were banging on the trash cans, they were cheating because that's clearly outside the rules about what an MLB team is allowed to have present on the field. Oh, and I guess what I'm just trying to say to wrap things up here, because honestly, this video has gone on long enough. You know, if you're going to consider someone a cheater in the MLB, at least have a viable claim to it and at least have a legitimate claim to it, because there's so many other better ways to quote-unquote cheat in the MLB, whether it be that you use PEDs or you clearly break a rule, or you have a foreign substance on you, you cork a bat, and you know, it's not like the torpedo bats are corked bats or something, it's just extra wood being applied to it. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is I wish my team was smart enough to use these bats, and there are certainly more innovative and creative ways to cheat. Am I right, St. Louis Cardinals?